yes, the tariffs on India make no sense. Granted, I mean, the tariffs on Canada are even crazier. We're America's greatest ally. We share a border, billions of dollars worth of trade. But not just that. We are so easily taken advantage of by America.
How do you think India played that?
Well, better than Canada. It's hard to determine, right? Because it's the tariffs make no sense. Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro are economically illiterate, so you're dealing with people in fantasy land. So it's all hypothetical. Like, so, India likes to think that they play chess and like there's really strategic moves, right? So it's one tweet of Trump's or truth, right? A few caps lock sentences away from completely changing the narrative in India. So if I'm the Indians, I would say you're always one tweet away from friendship or total war, right?
Animosity.
Animosity. That Pakistan will probably be used to take out the most up-and-coming terrorist organization, the Houthis, who had all this Western acclaim because they're sticking it to Israel by sinking Greek oil ships headed to Vietnam filled with Cambodian sailors. Bribe him with
Bitcoin
Trump coin. Get someone, get Adani to pay or Ambani to pay this guy to put $10 million in Trump coin for a thing, and then if we get this done, another $10 million in Trump coin. For billion-dollar projects, it's a $10 million Trump coin investment. Just buy Trump coin. It's the most obvious, scam, bribery thing set up for foreign influence. I guarantee you the Pakistanis are buying Trump coin. I guarantee you the Qataris are buying Trump coin. I guarantee you the Chinese are buying Trump coin.
Okay, so lots happening in the world of geopolitics, the tariffs, you have the wars that are happening, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and of course, add to all of that, now we have some new dealings happening between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. There is this whole thing around the Chabahar port in Iran, which India is building. Let's try and get a 360-degree view of what the implications for India and the rest of the world are. I'm now joined by a very special guest who's flown in all the way from Canada, senior correspondent with the National Telegraph newspaper, Daniel Bordman. Welcome back to India and welcome back to News 18.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. It's good to be back in studio.
So let's start with the biggest thing that's happened in the last 6 months. It's President Trump becoming president again, and he's imposed these tariffs on a whole bunch of countries, including India, Canada, I'm sure. Let's start with the India-US tariff situation, particularly in the last few days. I mean, earlier this week, he called up Prime Minister Modi. There was a phone call, exchanged wishes. Do you reckon there is a bit of a softening happening between India and the US?
Yeah, I mean, I think India, I don't want to say overreacted, but I think India was a bit surprised that they got tariffed. And I was wondering why. Because it's are you a country? And India's yeah, we're a country. Then you get tariffs. But you get tariffs. The tariffs on India make no sense. Granted, I mean, the tariffs on Canada are even crazier. We're America's greatest ally. We share a border, billions of dollars worth of trade. But not just that. We are so easily taken advantage of by America. Canada's such a silly place. We have more natural gas and oil. We could be one of the we could have flying cars. Literally, the meme you see. This is society if whatever happened. If Canada understood economics and harnessed its resources, everyone would have a flying car and maybe an Iron Man suit, whatever it is. But we're a silly nation. And whatever natural gas we have, we give to America below market value, and then they sell to the rest of the world. We can't even Trudeau would say there's no business case for the Japanese, the Poles, everyone was coming. Can we just buy your energy?
Yeah.
There's no business case for energy, only wind power. And you're we can't even get wind power to our own country. What do you mean we're going to export wind power to the Europeans? This is nonsensical thinking. So the Americans full on take advantage of our stupidity and have for years, and they profit off of that. And Trump is trying to tariff that, which is Canada kind of has had a bit of an awakening and wants to take control of its resource sector, but it's still run by the Liberals who hate the concept of having an economy. So they have Mark Carney, who looks like an economist, on the front. He's written a book, and he's run a central bank, and he's done numbers, and he has Brookfield. But if you look at Brookfield economics, none of it is, it's all parasitic, oligarchic, right? Do something, label it green, take money from the government for subsidies, and then make money. It's not about creating wealth and all that. So we have a fake economist running the country.
But how's he dealing with Trump though? Because there isn't really any science or any economics.
I think he's just kind of being quiet. He has. I think Christopher Freeland was just removed. I think he seems to be capitulating to Trump on certain things. Like, I think some of the crazier ministers, like Trump really hated Chrystia Freeland, because I think that's Trump's a true Canadian in that he despises Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland was the genius, maverick, super feminist genius who was negotiating the restructuring of NAFTA during Trump 1.0. And during the key restructuring phase, she went on a conference of, I would think it was like a female empowerment in politics nonsense conference. And she just went off on Trump like he's a fascist, he's a Nazi, he's this, he's the worst guy in the world. And you go, what are you doing? Like, the Mexicans got a better end of the deal because they just knew to shut up for 3 months, renegotiate the deal, and then get on with their lives. But she couldn't hold her tongue. So he's had a long-standing vendetta against Chrystia Freeland.
But we're seeing less sort of rhetoric and attacks. Like when Trudeau was in power, I mean, every day was like a meme fest. We're not seeing any of that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some going hard during the election to sell to the base that, we're hard on Trump. And then the Conservatives went over way too far on the hard on Trump instead of trying to be the balanced thing. Like, you know, I have 15-hour podcast we can do on how the Conservatives blew that election. But yeah, they've gone a bit soft in the rhetoric. We're sort of their whole thing was elbows up. Now elbows are down.
So why aren't they getting the deal? I mean,
because they don't want a deal.
They don't want a deal.
They don't want a deal.
And why is that?
Because the economic problems in Canada were so vast that it really benefits Liberals to blame Trump. So with runaway inflation and unemployment and all these different problems, if they get a deal with Trump and then Trump's fixed and then people go, okay, but why is this happening? Then someone's going to figure out, it's because the policy you instituted to ruin the economy.
Yeah.
But if you just got to say Trump's tariffs are causing this, and because, you know, Trump is a good villain to have for the Canadian public. So,
yeah, I mean, you can't blame him for the housing problem in Canada, but, you know, you can always blame him for other things that people forget the housing problem.
But you can blame him for the housing problem under this scenario, because you can say, tariffs and this and that whatever, this immigration because Trump's destabilizing and whatever. And to a good portion of the Canadian public, they'll want that because also, like, the Trudeau administration for 10 years, we've been very anti-national, primarily to ourselves. Like, India's noticed that we don't respect India's territorial integrity, which makes sense when you realize we don't respect our own territorial integrity. So it's not like we have hypocrisy. We're like, why can Canada be a country and India can't? We're like, no, we should destroy Canada. We're not even a country. It's stolen land at all. Like, let's balkanize ourselves. So, yeah, they're going to do that to India. So there was, I think, this void where Canadians really wanted to wave the flag for something, and then giving them the enemy in America and having a national coming together to ban, like, you know, actually having some cohesive, I think has really been, you know, filled, you know, an empty void for a lot of Canadians there. So I think the fight with Trump totally benefits the Liberal Party. The Conservatives don't know how to handle it because...
Yeah, let's not get you started on why the Conservatives don't know how to handle Trump.
I mean,
I want to come back to India and Trump. India and Trump. How do you think India played that?
Well, better than Canada. It's hard to determine, right? Because it's the tariffs make no sense. Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro are economically illiterate, so you're dealing with people in fantasy land. So it's all hypothetical. Like, so, you know, India likes to think that they play chess and like this really strategic moves, and they might have. I think someone in India was trying to play chess, but you weren't playing chess. You were like, it's not a game of chess on the board. It's you throw a bishop at someone's face and you throw a knight and then you knock over. That was the game that was being played. So India's strategy I think India coming together was beneficial. India got a bit obstinate, which I think, you know, kind of pushed back Trump. Because again, who'd been following Trump tariffs? Like, again, I don't know why India was so surprised. This was the standard playbook. It wasn't a special attack on India. It was kind of like the standard boilerplate, like, tariffs. Yeah. And then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. It was like tariff GPT. It was the chat GPT, like, Trump tariff war.
But I think the thing that sort of really upset a lot of people here in India was not so much the first set of reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
It was the second one and linked to Russian oil.
Yeah.
And the feeling here in India was, and I think the foreign minister articulated it, I mean, 3 years ago when the war started, it was the previous US administration who asked India to import this and refine this and sell it because otherwise the prices of oil would go crazy. And India is the only country that was slapped with these tariffs, even though China imports a hell of a lot more Russian oil than India does. Do you see Trump... I mean, is he using that just as an excuse? Is there a way now that he can walk back on that?
There's always a way you can walk back because the point of the MAGA base is the MAGA base that supports tariffs is philosophically not hardcore conservatives, because like the Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire types, they're conservatives, right? And they're coming to, because Ben Shapiro's always been against because he's a free trade. Like, and I think, I'd love it if Canada and India and America and democratic nations could trade freely. Like, there's a difference with China and North Korea, right? Not with everyone, because national security matters. Okay. So the part of the conservative base that believes in tariffing the world and protectionism isn't so philosophically grounded in tariffs, right? So it's one tweet of Trump's or truth, right? A few caps lock sentences away from completely changing the narrative in India. So if I'm the Indians, I would say you're always one tweet away from friendship or total war, right?
Animosity.
Animosity to that. So it's really hard to say that, like, again, I believe some Indians were trying to play chess, but the game you were playing was not chess. It was more like,
whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole. Yeah, it was whack-a-mole. Maybe you were like, it was a king-shaped, queen-shaped thing. Maybe you took your queen to whack-a-mole. But I think, Trump's kind of moved on, and I think maybe some more sensible people in the administration, again, like the thing, right? The lunatics take control and say all the crazy stuff, and then it falls on, once they make a problem and they make a mess of it, then you have to deploy Marco Rubio to solve the problem, right? And Marco Rubio he's busy cleaning up all the, right? He has to deal with Iran and Russia and China, and then it's like, okay, Marco, fix India. So then the sign is, once Marco Rubio was deployed, that means the idiots mess things up. Trump realized, okay, the idiots got this one wrong. Okay, Marco, go fix this. You understand the different countries. So Marco Rubio's now on the case. He has, 8,000 jobs. I wish they would get a
Secretary of State.
A second like person with a brain, like an old school. Get someone back from this one. Like, bring back John Bolton to deal with Iran or something. Like,
I don't think Bolton's coming anywhere close to this administration. But I want to sort of come to some of the things that have happened in this region, and one of the big talking points in the last few days has been around the Saudi Arabia-Pakistan deal. Here in India, there's a degree of concern because one of the clauses says an attack on one is an attack on both. So are we going to be seeing, Saudi F-16s, directed at India if there were to be another Operation Sindoor?
Less than 1% chance, in my view.
And why is that?
Because the Saudi pilots don't want to get shot down. They'll bomb Yemeni school buses and Yemeni villagers, but there's a reason why Saudi Arabia doesn't have like an army, and it's just a bunch of Air Force pilots, is they don't want to risk it, right? So,
what do you think this deal is about? I mean, what is it aimed at?
I kind of, maybe the Saudi Arabians want to use them to clear out the Houthis in Yemen. I mean, listen, the Saudis can pay people to do things. This is what the Saudi Arabia understands. Saudi Arabia is, this is, if the Indians learn how to just bribe people to do what they want, they'll destroy Pakistan. Like, that was the problem in Operation Sindoor. Yeah, you destroyed their army, but Pakistan just figured to pay a bunch of people in the West to say they won. And then, people did. And India was like, but the evidence, and no one cares about evidence. So they'll just pay a bunch of Pakistanis to be mercenaries and to probably finish off the Houthis, because they don't want the Houthis flying missiles at them. So I love this deal. I think it's hilarious because, again, Pakistan for being like the world's second leadest state sponsor of terrorism. I know the Indians get mad at me. No, it's number one. Iran funds way. Well, Israelis have taken out Iran's entire network, so maybe Pakistan is number one if you redo the numbers. But okay, one of the gold medal hopefuls for the state sponsor of terrorism Olympics, Pakistan, will probably be used to take out like the most up and coming terrorist organization, the Houthis, who had all this Western acclaim because they're sticking it to Israel by sinking like Greek oil ships headed to Vietnam filled with Cambodian sailors. Right, that's how you get back at the Jews. And a bunch of drugged up Houthi lunatics will probably be dealt with by a bunch of Pakistani soldiers. So Pakistan will come in again, and it'll probably be a repeat of Black September. Which, if you don't know, in 1970, when the Jordanians are having problems with the PLO and the Palestinians, they brought in the Pakistani military, and they just started massacring all the Palestinians in Jordan. They killed 25,000 actual civilians. in a month, and then drove them into Lebanon, which started the Lebanese civil war. But we're looking for a repeat of history where the Arabs pay the Pakistanis to do their dirty work, and then they take out like the heroes of the terrorist resistance that they claim to support. So I see this as a pretty funny thing. I understand how India is a bit worried that Saudi F-16s might be coming, but if you have, in my view, if you have an air defense system capable of shooting down an F-16 or any of the Saudi jets, I don't see a Saudi pilot risking it. Pakistan.
So let me come to the again. This is something that has happened just in the last 24 to 48 hours. So while on the one hand there seems to be a thaw with the Trump administration on the tariff side, they've just taken off a sanctions waiver on a port that India is building in Iran. When America and the rest of the West went and put sanctions on Iranian oil, India said, okay, we won't buy Iranian oil. Same with Venezuela. And now they're saying the same thing with the Russian oil, but we'll see how that story plays out. But this port, I think they've invested 100 million, maybe more than 100 million to build this port. It's India's gateway into Central Asia. It's really the response to the Gwadar port that the Chinese are building in Pakistan. And when Trump gave the sanctions waiver 7-8 years ago, 2018, I think, in his first term, the feeling was, okay, we're making a one-time exception for India because this is important for India. This is to counterbalance China and Pakistan. And now suddenly the State Department has come out and said no more sanctions waiver, which basically means that port project renders itself useless because you can't fight those sanctions. So is this, White House doing one thing, State Department then good cop, bad cop, or what's going on? Or left hand doesn't know what the right is doing?
Probably a bit of both. But I think there's unintentional good copying, bad copying. And it's like, I understand putting sanctions, like you don't want to empower the Iranian economy because the Iranians, listen, Iranians have been the Islamic Republic, the number one state sponsor of terrorism, and they're running like narco-terrorism through the United States. And I know India has Iran balanced because it's in their own backyard, but the Islamic Republic and the Ayatollah is incredibly hostile to the West and actively, in the same way that Pakistan attacks India consistently, the Islamic Republic of Iran does that to America. So I understand the U.S. Skepticism there. My way, if I was to say India to solve this, probably the best way to solve it, because it is Iran, and you do have a new friend in agreement with the Israelis. If you want anyone to negotiate for a sanctions waiver with Iran or some sort of exception and some sort of security guarantees, I would probably get on the phone with Jerusalem if I were Modi and see if you can, get the Israelis to be less calmed down, or if they can come in or have some sort of behind the scenes security details. Because then if the Israelis go to the Americans and say, okay, we can somewhat keep this contained, and then because the Israelis are starting to realize the real threat of China. Everyone understands the threat of Pakistan because it's yelled at them, but if you live in the West, one of the things I like most about India is you've banned TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese cyber weapon that's destroying the country and can be activated to do even worse. But
Trump's going to cut a deal.
Because listen, if you want to deal with Trump, listen. Honestly, how should India deal with Trump? Buy $10 million worth of Trump coin. Yeah. It's really, and then $5 million worth of Melania coin. For $15 million, I could solve all your problems. You're like, oh, playing chess. What if we do this? Buy Trump coin.
We don't have a Bitcoin framework in this country. It's technically as good as banned. You can't. You can't meaningfully engage in
bribe
Bitcoin.
Bribe him with
Bitcoin
Trump coin. Get someone, get Adani to pay or Ambani to pay this guy to put $10 million in Trump coin for a thing. And then if we get this done, another $10 million in Trump coin. For $1 billion projects, it's a $10 million Trump coin investment. Just buy Trump coin. It's the most obvious, scam, bribery thing set up for foreign influence. I guarantee you the Pakistanis are buying Trump coin. I guarantee you the Qataris are buying Trump coin. I guarantee you the Chinese are buying Trump coin. You want something done? Buy Trump coin, then ask. And the thing, it's not like, oh, we'll move this. This is the State Department. Just buy the Trump coin. Ask him for a thing. Again, Canada can solve the issue with Trump. How? Just buy Trump coin, and then get a trade deal.
Anyway. Yeah. So I'll come to the sort of concluding part, and how do you see this playing itself out, let's say over the next 6 months or so? I also want to get in a word, on the Charlie Kirk killing.
Yes.
Because that's really, it seems like, I think somebody said it on Twitter the other day, in America it feels like in the aftermath of 9/11, it's almost like the country is split down the middle and, left can't see right, neighbors can't see each other. And there is a feeling that one half of the country is just tone deaf to what happened. You can't kill a man just because he has a view that you don't agree with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very seminal moment because I mean, being on the center right myself, like there's people who you don't want to say this like if there's certain super far right neo-Nazi esque figures who are legitimately going around, no, kill these people, like quasi domestic terrorists,
Yeah.
and then someone kills them. I'm not saying it's right, but the feeling wouldn't be as intense because if you kill someone out on the fringes, that's one thing. But what really is dividing the country is I think every conservative looks at Charlie Kirk and says that could be me, right? Because you know, I don't agree with. Yeah, I can say yeah, Charlie Kirk and I would have been on the opposite side of a Russia-Ukraine debate. But in terms of like taxation and this and this and that, like all the normal stuff, all the stuff that like we'd probably be able to sit down and be like, yes, 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 no. And if that's something that could get you killed, but not only that, but have people cheer your death, that's like a moment where I think it wakes everyone up. Like,
Yeah.
right? Because the Charlie Kirk death really put half the country in his shoes, right? Not just a fringe section of like,
Yeah.
oh, Charlie was a fringe figure.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk was not a fringe figure, right? He revolutionized the conservative movement by actually getting into the colleges, getting into the high schools, right?
Speak to us as to why that's so hard.
Yeah, I mean,
it's-
if political mavens, and this is kind of true all over the world, the left generally has a bigger hole, right? When you're young, you have a
Yeah.
bleeding heart, and then you start to pay your taxes, and then you realize, wait a minute, right? That's
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
the circle of life. So conservatives has always wanted to in with the youth, and Charlie Kirk was the one who cracked the case and sort of came onto the scene and managed to organize and get across all the United States. There's Turning Point USA. Every college campus has a turning point. He spoke at every college university, even got into the high schools. He made the conservative philosophies accessible to the youth. He understood, podcasting, memes, this and that. So every conservative under 35 was probably affected by Charlie Kirk in some point of their journey towards the right.
And then you see him sitting in a college, in a university campus, answering
Exactly.
a question, and he gets shot.
And he's murdered in the middle of
Yeah.
the great traditional debate of
Yeah.
dealing, talking about people's problems. Ironically, killed while asked a question about left wing violence, and then he's murdered that way. So it's something that it's one of those moments that touches a lot of people because it's that it could be me moment for half the country. And I want to give some of the U.S. left, the mainstream left, has not been celebrating and reveling in his death so much, but there is a certain online TikTok.
Yeah.
Again, which should be nuked. I want a preemptive thermonuclear strike on TikTok, metaphorically, but I'd be fine if it was physical too. It needs to be destroyed because you see it's pushing absolute social division. And I blame Trump 100% for the TikToking. The Democratic Congress passed a law to get rid of it, and Trump himself saved it. And when TikTok is weaponized against him and the wider conservative movement and the Americans in general, it will be his fault for allowing this communist cyber weapon to be used against the country. So you really see a lot of bad foreign actors like Iran, Russia, China, Pakistan, every hostile foreign power who all over every part of the internet is pushing conspiracies and division and hatred on the Charlie Kirk thing because they really see it as a seminal moment. So this would be a good time to sort of, I think, clean up hostile foreign bots and all that, and TikTok.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything serious
I
happening.
don't see
Yeah,
that
I don't see
happening with
that
Trump. So I'm gonna get the last question in. I think the last time we did this, it was almost a year ago, and the world was a very different place.
Yes.
There was no Trump. Trudeau was in office.
Yeah.
There was certainly no Mark Carney at that time. Everybody said Poilievre was going to be the Prime Minister of
Yeah.
Canada. Here we are. I mean,
Here we are. The most epic fail. I mean, I think the Polyev lesson, I think if there's a global thing, is he took his foot off the gas. In sport,
Oh, he just got
Outmaneuvered.
Outmaneuvered, yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, politics, he got out politicized. I mean, he didn't know how to play the game.
he didn't know how to play the game, and there's I was a defensive back when I played football, and in hockey they teach you like never stop moving your feet. Once you're flat-footed, then you could. And the Conservatives were up 20 points,
Yeah.
and they stopped moving. And I know this from the inside.
Yeah.
There were things from up high. Don't say anything so you don't get any controversy. And then the Liberals were able to even have their whole little leadership election.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives just let them take back the narrative. And then Trump came like manna from heaven for them,
Yeah.
flipped the script, And then the liberals were able to drive the narrative, and the conservatives were now in the back seat because they weren't driving the narrative. I think the great caution of the conservative thing is passivity in politics, right? Like inaction is in itself an action, right? So you think you're safe by doing nothing, but doing nothing is also a choice. You're always making choices. And it's best to be on the front foot than on the back foot, because when you're on the back foot and defending, when you're defending, you can't win. You can't win just playing defense, right? If you're always playing defense, eventually you're going to lose. You could be the greatest defense of all time, but eventually you'll get pushed back. If you're never on the front foot, you can't win.
All right. Thank you very much, Daniel Bordman. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and have a great time here in India.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.